Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ask Dr. Nick. My name is Dr. Nick Schmidlkoffer, and I work for the Neurologic Wellness Institute here in downtown Chicago. And on today's episode, our question of the day is, can skipping breakfast improve cognition and energy? And this is an important one to take a look at because intermittent fasting is such a craze nowadays. And I have talked about previously on one of these episodes about intermittent fasting and about its benefits for brain health and have this metabolic flexibility. And today I want to talk about how fasting, especially in the first part of the morning, can show those benefits for the brain when it comes to our energy and our fatigue levels. And so I'm going to talk about one specific paper. This paper was a randomized controlled trial in women, in active women. And I want to kind of go through it and talk about main points that they came out with, what were the results, and then move on from there. So let's go right to the article. So here it is. The article is from Nutrients in 2015. It's called The Effect of Breakfast Prior to Morning Exercise on Cognitive Performance, Mood, and Appetite Later in the Day in Habitually Active Women. Okay, so in the abstract, they talked about how higher energy intake at breakfast. So they first did a pilot study. The pilot study was just a certain amount of women, and they basically said, eat whatever you want, the day of and the day before, but record everything you're eating and let us know when you exercise and if you ate before you exercised or after. And in this pilot study, they showed that higher energy intake at breakfast was associated with lower fatigue and higher overall mood and alertness post-exercise. So basically, eating more at breakfast before they went and exercised led to this lower fatigue, better mood. Then they decided, okay, well, let's do a follow-up. So let's do a randomized controlled clinical trial where 24 active women complete all three phases, where they either have no breakfast, they have a small breakfast, or they have a large breakfast before they exercise. And so participants completed cognitive tasks, mood scores, appetite, visual analog scales before a cereal breakfast or no breakfast. And then after 45 minutes, they completed a 30-minute run at a relatively easy rate, 65% of their heart rate reserve. And then these parameters were reassessed after exercise multiple times, right after exercise, before lunch after exercise, and then post-lunch, and then at home as well via just a mobile phone. And it showed that breakfast enhanced the feelings of relaxation before lunch, probably because the women weren't super hungry. But breakfast was detrimental for the working memory mid-afternoon and mental fatigue and tension later in the day. And obviously, breakfast was beneficial for appetite control before lunch. Okay, so this just has a little bit of insights in here. So let's go down and just kind of talk about what the study looked like here. So a bunch of different scales, a bunch of different tests. So we'll come back to that one. Okay, so here's what the main study looked like. Basically, at 8:15 in the morning, they had this baseline for appetite on a visual analog scale, these cognitive tasks, a mood visual analog scale. And they either ate breakfast or they fasted. Right afterwards, they did this appetite scale again. And they had a 45-minute rest, did the scales again, did a 30-minute treadmill test where they're constantly looking at their heart rate to make sure they stayed at 65% heart rate reserve. Then right after exercise, they did all these scales again. They did it at 1 hour in between. They did it at 2 hours. Then they had lunch, checked them again. And then the patient or the participant would leave the lab, and then at home, they did these mobile phone tests, which are basically the cognitive tasks, but they were very similar to the ones done along these lines that were in the laboratory, but they were just a little bit different. Okay, and so first let's go up to see what were the breakfasts that they had, and so that's right here. So they had a standardized breakfast and a standardized lunch, and they also had a standardized nightly meal. And so the meal was given to them the night before, and they had to eat that so that it was all kind of standardized going into the day of testing. And again, all these participants, all 24 women, did each one of these, and they were separated by about 48 hours, at least 48 hours, between doing each one of these trials. So the one with the small breakfast was 20 grams of a Special K cereal bar and skim milk. The large breakfast was 40 grams of a Special K cereal bar and skim milk. Again, just more of it. And the lunch was all the same. Some penne pasta with tomato herb pasta sauce, olive oil, and cheese. Okay. And again, they're looking at basically, is breakfast, no breakfast, small or large breakfast, affecting this mood, appetite control, relaxation, but also cognition. So let's go right to the results. Okay, so here we go. We have the effects of consuming breakfast cereal and no breakfast, looking at the false alarms post-exercise, so how well the exercise did with the cognition. And this was on the mobile phone task. And so at the 1500 hours, so this would be like 3:00 p.m., the people that ate the no breakfast had fewer false alarms. Basically, they had better cognition later in the day if they did not eat breakfast. But then at like 7:00, the ones that had the best cognition was the ones that ate just 20 grams. So the small breakfast, okay? That's not bad. I think this might have to do more with the lunch they were eating because it was later in the day, or even the dinner they ate. I don't know if this really had a overall effect on, this was overall based on the breakfast. But I do think that this one may have been, because a 3:00 lunch means that even though the participant ate the same amount of lunch as, or all the participants ate the same amount of lunch, the ones that ate less or eat no breakfast were going to eat a little bit more for lunch, but they were able to handle it because fasting allows you to then intake more calories after that, and then still have the ability to burn those calories and not have this huge glucose and insulin spike. Then if we kind of move down and we look at the like mood and physical state, or this like relaxation, we can see that clearly the people that had no breakfast had an okay relaxed mood post-exercise, 1 hour post-exercise, probably because post-exercise makes you feel a little more relaxed. But then it dipped before lunch because they were probably really hungry. While the people that had breakfast, they were a little more sustained before lunch, okay? So what I get out of this is don't control maybe your lunch when you are fasting. If you need to eat earlier, heck, eat earlier. Don't let yourself get into a relaxed state or a more stressed state because you're trying to push off this fast. If you skip breakfast and then want to kind of prolong your fast a little bit, go ahead. But once you're feeling hungry, go ahead and eat. That's a great time to just listen to your body and go eat. Then if we look at mental fatigue and tension, so we'll go mental fatigue first. So this is the no breakfast, this is the small breakfast, and this is the bigger breakfast. The people that ate the no breakfast or did not have breakfast had a decreased mental fatigue. They had more energy. They also had decreased tension, decreased stress or tension at the same time. So again, fasting can improve our overall brain health to then give us more energy because we're ending up maybe using ketone bodies. Maybe we are not bogged down by inflammation from food we're eating, especially if it's higher in starchy carbs or processed foods like they were given here. And then of course hunger. This one makes complete sense, right? We just kind of talked about it above with the relaxation, that the no breakfast group had a higher hunger pre-exercise, during exercise, post-exercise, while the ones that ate breakfast had decreased hunger. This just makes complete sense. We don't really have to go through that one as much. And that is the same thing as well. Okay, so let's come back here. Basically, what this study is showing is that fasting can have improvements in people, especially these active women later in the day, for cognitive benefits and for decreased fatigue or better energy. And this, of course, in relation to that they did do an exercise routine, can be beneficial for everyone going into work. It might be best for people to wake up, don't eat right away, skip your breakfast, and go for a walk. Exercise a little bit for 30 minutes. Feel kind of good. Get that get blood flow to your brain. Get your heart rate up. Get moving. Flush out toxins with sweating, and then still just kind of prolong that fast. If you skip breakfast that way, you're kind of prolonging this fast. You're increasing ketone bodies, and these ketone bodies are beneficial for your brain. It's going to improve that mental clarity, decrease fatigue, and then when you are feeling hungry, when you are feeling a little bit more stressed because like, man, I'm hungry, gotta eat, then just go eat. It doesn't need to be anything specific. You don't need to wait till 1 p.m. You don't need to have a specific regimen of fasting 18 hours every single day. And you can kind of just go with how your body feels. And then of course, what these women were being fed were high processed food carbohydrates, which are going to cause these dips and turns in your blood sugar. And that is going to affect mood and clarity. And so maybe not going for a high carb pasta meal when you do break your fast, going for something that is going to keep that energy up throughout the rest of the day, something that's higher in protein so that you prevent snacking later in the day, and then higher in some healthy fats, and then maybe just some natural unprocessed carbs like fruits and vegetables. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was beneficial for people, because I do think that breakfast, even though it is the most important meal of the day, breakfast is just breaking fast. And so it doesn't have to be right away when you wake up. It can be your lunch, or it can be earlier than lunch. And so hopefully everyone got something beneficial out of this one. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you have any suggestions for future topics, I would love to hear them. Thank you very much, and stay healthy.